All right, so the kills in this movie were so good and like so unexpected, most of them, that I was just like, oh my god, that just happened,
All very realistic,
dude. Yes.
and all like a lot of it looked very practical. So right off the
Yeah.
bat, like the first rotten we see is just a giant ball of pus.
Yeah.
Like
It's
he is ready to pop,
disgusting. Yeah.
and that's certainly practical. I mean, wouldn't you say? Like, I don't think there's any CG going on there,
The
right?
only thing that looked kind of like maybe was a little CGI was like his face, like his eye moving around, but I don't think it was. I think it was all practical.
It looked all practical to me,
Yeah, it's
and
just like pus leaking. His like one of his eyes is just swollen shut, like pus, and like he's
and his
kind of
I
like
mean his mouth, I
mouth.
mean everything,
Yeah, it's so
and he,
gross, but so
and
good.
he's just begging for you to kill him, and they're saying, you got to be the right, you got to be trained in this, and you got to do it the right way and everything. But and also not to jump ahead too much, but that scene I alluded to earlier with the dog, like
Man,
first of all, the dog just comes out. They're all
man,
arguing in there and upset with each other and distracted, and the dog just starts chomping on
dude,
that little girl's face.
that got me in that whole like 10, 15 minute scene, whatever it was. I was just
Hmm.
like on the edge of my seat, like it's like
Unbelievable.
yeah, they're like arguing in the kitchen, and then the dog is sitting next to this little girl, and like you can kind of it kind of gives you a hint like maybe something's gonna happen, because they do allude to the fact that
I
animals
didn't.
kind of get possessed at
I
first,
didn't even think about it. I didn't even think
dude.
about it. I don't know
I
why.
and I didn't really either, and that's why it caught me off guard. And like it's just it kind of like it's a shot from behind, and it's like a dog and then the girl. Then all of a sudden the dog just wham right into the girl, and I was like, oh my god.
And they keep showing, like, flashing back to it again, and it's like every time you see it, it's worse again. It's like you just ragdoll, like when you're fighting with a
Yeah,
dog with a towel, it's just ragdolling her head, and it looks so real. There probably was some CGI in that because the camera's kind of dashing around and whatever.
yeah,
But if there was, they hit it well. But it doesn't matter. But that whole thing was crazy. And then obviously now, so we got to, you know, we've got a dog that's
well, it runs out of the house with the girl still in its jaws, and just like and
oh,
they see that happen.
yes, yeah, 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 yeah. Uh, whatever. Oh yeah. So the dad, the girl's father. So the stepdad to the other two kids of this guy's ex-wife, our main guy's ex-wife, um, like our main guy is just pleading and begging for this guy not to use firearms, not to use any gunpowder, whatever,
Yeah,
and he drives off with a gun, and you know what's going to happen. It doesn't take long. He's killed the dog,
and it seems like
and
if you kill somebody with a gun, you're pretty much gonna be immediately possessed, and like that's a
yeah,
thing all these people know.
it's over for you, yeah,
Yeah,
and so you see the dog dead, and then I don't remember exactly what takes us from A to B here, but when we see the mother again, she's holding the little girl. The girl's safe now, and she has no blood on her. She's like, you feel okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm good."
yeah,
And you're like, okay." Like, so it's sometimes dead is better. But uh, but she's like telling her that like daddy's gonna come back in the car and kill you. And I mean, it does exactly forecast what is exactly about to happen, but that still took me off guard. Like it just everything happens so fast.
right.
There's like a reality in the sudden brutality of everything. Like it has like a
Yeah,
coldness to it where it's just like, no, this isn't going to be an easy one. Uh, and even that ultimate, you know, that ultimate, I don't want to say twist, but like they start to give you one little peak of a ray of sunshine. Like we've got this woman who knows what she's doing here,
right.
but uh, but everything is, and there's more we can say about this too, but everything is kind of coming to a head, and she's starting to set up this weapon, and we're about to see how this weapon works for the first time, and there's a lot to say, but like under the floorboards are all like the teachers in the school. The school's full of all these kids that are like protecting this demon,
Yeah, she kind of tells the guy like evil likes kids and kids like
and kids like
evil.
evil.
So it's like
I
he's
guess
kind
it's.
of controlling them a little bit, and it's like
Mhm.
the rotten kind of affected these kids. They took it into the school and hid it under these floorboards, and they killed all the teachers and
It's almost like it affects them differently though, because it's like
yeah,
they're not fully rotten. They're just like puppets for if you're a little kid and this happens to you, if you don't just get completely annihilated, like
yeah,
brains ripped out and everything, uh,
and it does kind of make
you're like
sense.
manipulated.
Yeah, and it does kind of make sense with what happens with the rotten because he kind of
Oh yeah,
he
I mean
doesn't
I get it.
he doesn't necessarily like he does kind of possess the children, but it does seem like they
He needs
maybe
protection
have a
from them.
little bit of free will or something.
Well, I think maybe what I was taking from it, and I'm not there might be more than one interpretation, but what I was kind of taking from it is like kids are a useful tool in protecting yourself because you get these kids. What this thing is ultimately. Well, I say this thing. I guess it's Lucifer, but
It's a demon. They don't.
yeah, I
I mean,
guess
they say Lucifer, but they also say like Beelzebub, Azrael.
Azrael.
Like it's. I think it could be multiple demons that take the place of the rotten, and the
Hmm.
whole thing is like the rotten is trying to be born into the world,
Right,
and that's kind of the
right.
ambiguity of the end of the movie. That leaves you to kind of like guess, well, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, I took well, but what I was going to say is she's using that. She starts to use that weapon, and it looks like maybe we have a chance here. And the the original Rotten, whose the name escapes me, Uriel or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was his name.
Uh, Uriel, who we haven't seen since the truck thing.
The beginning of the movie,
Uh,
basically. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we saw him. Like we don't know where he's gone up until now, but he's under the floorboards and still alive and begging to be killed. And the kids, especially this one particular girl, are lying for the demon and saying like, oh, you got to go get this. There's an axe in the whatever. And I don't know what. It's like it takes a little bit of control of you, and it likes fear, and it kind of latches onto your fear to take advantage of you,
Right.
and it's very effective at, even though the rule is you can't kill this any other way than like the right way. He still goes in there. It was so frustrating. He still goes in
Yeah,
there after
but
that axe.
it 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 manipulate. But that's the thing is like she
You
kind of
get, I mean,
the
you get it,
cleaner.
but
Yeah, the cleaner kind of like alludes to like it's gonna try to manipulate you, and it does, cause it does something that sets you off or gets in your head and
mhm.
talks about like the things that are messing
in,
with you.
in his case, they're saying like what I was gonna do to your kids, or what I would have
Right.
done to your whatever. But but yeah, so he goes to gets that axe, gets locked in there, and then they make quick work of her. I mean, she's being drug off immediately, and all these kids are just banging her on the head with this hammer, dragging her off. So that is over. And toward the end, he kills uh, Uriel just just like blunt force with this tool, like not using it the right way at all.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty brutal scene. But I was like, does that mean like isn't that just as bad as an axe? I mean, you know what I mean? If you're not using it
Yeah.
properly,
I mean, yeah, the whole thing is you got to use
so
this
it's like they're not
contraption.
safe.
But man, when
Yeah.
his so like he takes off the floorboards and finds him down there, and then
Hmm.
after they drag her off and stuff, and he's kind of in there, and Uriel's head is like popped up out of the floorboards. It was
Hmm.
such good like
That was a this movie is not particularly scary in any of the traditional senses, but
yeah,
maybe we've like come to conflate that word with jump scares, and if that's the case, I don't even want scary. For the most
right.
part, like that's not my flavor of. This is scary in all the right ways, but it is not like you're not like. Do you know what I mean? Do you agree with me? Like it's not like
Yeah,
terrifying to watch this. It's like it's brutal, and the stuff that's happening is so like if you think about yourself in these situations and stuff, like
yeah.
it's crazy. But it's
It's
not like scary imagery really. It's just at most it's like gross out or gore or
but it
something
still
like
just
that.
like captures you and like you said makes you think about like, oh God, what would I do in this situation? Or like
Hmm. Yeah,
it's
I mean,
just
uh, like the situation with the goat.
yeah,
I thought that was handled really. The goat scene is such a nice introduction into like what you're in for here,
right.
because to me that was such a unique thing of like she's screaming about the goat, and almost as the audience is almost like what about it? How do you know what is that goat even doing that's different than anybody else? but the goat's just kind of staring, and the rest of the goats are being goats. Like there's something about this goat that's not quite goat,
Yeah.
but you can't quite put your finger on it. And then he fires a shotgun or firearm or something. Fires his firearm. All the goats run away, and this one's still standing there. Which I knew they were gonna. I could tell that was what was about to happen.
Yeah.
But that was a really cool way of telling a story. And the goat's still standing there, so like slowly starts advancing on him and pushes its head up to the barrel of the
It's
gun,
like,
and
do it. You're not gonna do it. Do it.
obviously blows the goat's face off. And as soon as she sees this really took me off guard.
So we should say these are not the main characters. These are like side
No,
characters from the beginning of the movie.
although this guy does get his name mentioned a ton in the beginning. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
when do we get to meet this dude that we keep
When we
talking
get to
about?
meet Ruiz,
Ruiz.
yeah, he like blows the it. I love that though. The goat's just like puts the barrel on its own
I
head.
dare
Basically,
you.
is like, come on, do it.
So he does, and as soon as his wife sees that, she goes at his head with like head, face, everything with a hatchet, and that took me off guard. I knew he was about to blow the goat's head off. I did not see the
I
hatchet
did
thing
not
coming.
either.
And then if you think that's crazy, she's pregnant. So this is about to ruin. Like it's gonna start with the baby. It's gonna ruin everything. Like this is the beginning of the. She knows it's over,
Yeah,
and she knows so surely that it's over that she hatchets herself in the face,
yeah,
and that was nuts. Like she's hatcheting herself way like way into her brain still, and then it's like she only stops because her brain, that part of her brain, won't lift her arm anymore. Like
yeah.
that's where we're at. Woo! I was like,
Some
I
of
was
the
waiting for somebody in the audience to be like, you know,
yeah, I feel like like some of these like gore death scenes are probably some of the best ones I've seen in quite a while. That wasn't just like there to be gratuitous, you know?
and the make. I mean, the special effects in here just I can't say enough. The because you know we're obviously the dead don't really stay dead
Yeah.
too much. I mean, it's not full blown like zombie, but that is an aspect of this. Is that if you can be possessed after death too. You know,
Hmm.
it's a demon possession thing, but you can be possessed after death.
And
And
sometimes it seems like you get rejuvenated, and sometimes you don't.
in the case of the kid's mother, um, her face is still just as smashed as it would be if you just got hit by a car, and the makeup work on that is excellent.
Dude,
And and she grabs that kid, and what happens with that kid, man? God, they get you attached to these kids,
they really do, and it's
and
like that
she's
was like one of the most brutal things in the movie, I think.
yeah, you like the kid, you know. I mean, it's not like anytime it's a kid, it's like whoa, like they went there. But when they get you like invested in the kid first and then do it, and then it's not just they kill the kid. It's like no, she's like slurping on his brains or something, dude.
Yeah,
Like it's
she's like
we've
carrying him in a motherly fashion down the street, and you kind of see like some stuff going like that, and she's like, he's literally missing the top of his skull, and she's
mhm.
just like pulling it out and eating it.
And I swear all this, like knowing the kind of people that make these kind of movies, I swear all this stuff looks good in the cold light of day too. Like
Yeah,
I think they took their time with the stuff, and there's so much to say about that because it's so easy to just fall back on CGI too much. You know, there's nothing wrong with CGI used right, but
the
if you fall back
practical
on that too
effects
much,
were
it
just
just
so good.
takes like the heart out of it. It takes the reality out of it.
Yeah,
And then that's the other thing I keep falling like finding myself wanting to say is just the reality of this uh, is handled really well. It doesn't feel like nothing about this is like contrived or really. It doesn't feel derivative of anything else. Even though I am saying like I keep making it. I want to get away from making it sound like it's some zombie movie or some typical possession movie. It's not even just what you would imagine as a combination of those two things.
yeah.
It's just something unique.
So let's talk about the end a little bit, because I keep saying how it's ambiguous, and but
Yeah.
I feel like it, like I said, it does give you enough to make your own interpretation of like what you think might
Mm-hmm.
happen. So after he like smashes the brain out of Uriel, it's like, because the whole thing is the rotten is trying to last so long or something like that, or get somebody to kill it in a
It's trying
certain
to be
way,
born.
trying to be
Mm-hmm.
born. And then basically he smashes the brains out of Uriel, and then he like kind of like defeatedly is on his knees. He knows he shouldn't have done it, but like he was
Mm-hmm.
just so upset and infuriated by what was happening. And then it's like a child climbs out of like these like
almost like a hatching egg.
Yeah, under the stage, he's just covered head to toe in blood, and all the other
And I guess
children like
that's
help him
what.
down.
So that's what the first rotten was basically an egg.
Okay.
The first, right? I mean, that's kind of. I'm just saying that out loud for the first time, but like that's kind of what I'm taking from it is
Yeah,
like
I would
that
assume
was the
so.
initial egg, and it was allowed to live long enough, and being killed that way, it's like everything worked out perfectly for this thing to finally hatch. But yeah, so what were you gonna say though?
And it's basically like a demon is born, and I really like the imagery of like so he's covered in this like just viscous blood, and he walks by our main character and just like drags his fingers across his head and
Mm-hmm.
leaves like a blood trail, and all these kids are kind of gathered around him as he's walking out into the daylight after this long night or whatever.
All following by. It's very like what's like the Pied Piper. It's almost like the Pied Piper.
Yeah. And so maybe it is, maybe I was a little bit wrong about saying it wasn't just Lucifer, because maybe this is the Antichrist that has just been born or
I
something.
think this is the ultimate, like, because the woman who's seen this stuff before and fought against him, and everything, she's like,
Right.
this is different. We're too far already. There's too many kids, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We're too late.
So it kind of
And
leaves you to like guess on what's going to happen to the world now that this
you
thing is
know,
free.
this links back, but when they're in the car, and we're starting to flee away from this virus spreading and everything, the um, the grandma is like, she's naming off all the rules, and they won't let her name off the last rule, which is you can't be afraid to die.
Right.
We find out later, but there's 7 rules. She names off 6 of them, and one of them is you can't speak the evil's name. And
Yes.
the kid's like, what's the evil's name? And she's like, well, there's a lot. It goes by a lot of names. You got Lucifer, you got Azrael, you got Beelzebub, you got and and he's like, "Whoa, you're naming off all the names." And
Right.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah, stop doing that." And the autistic son starts saying Azrael,
Yeah.
and I was like, "We're in trouble."
And I
And
thought
and and I get, oh, what were you gonna say?
well, go ahead. Sorry. I'll say it after.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, that was the thing I was kind of alluding to in the first video, is just the way they handle, like, the mechanics of possession on someone with a severe autism like this. Like,
Yeah.
it can't figure out an autistic brain, so it's like stuck in his joints and fingers and stuff, and so his feet and fingers are like twisting and writhing because this thing's it's like it's stuck in here. And
And
I think,
it
oh
does
yeah,
it does get a moment of lucidity in the movie, which I was just like, it kind of takes
that
you off guard.
that scene kind of blew me away a little bit.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen, yeah, because there's a moment where uh the autistic son finally comes out of the car. There's a whole thing with apple ice cream, which now I kind of want, but
Man, I almost
uh,
bought a one of those apple sodas when I went to the grocery store a little bit ago, the Manzanitos or whatever it is, or
yeah, I
Manzanas.
don't think I've ever had apple ice cream, and I
Yeah.
want it now. It looked, uh, but uh, but it's like part of his autism is that he was promised this apple ice cream, and they couldn't. They were out at the store, and they got to run. They got to leave. They can't go back in some other store and go get it. They got to keep going, and he won't be right until he gets the apple ice cream. So he's very repeating these loud sounds over and over again, and he won't leave the car. And his dad's having to sleep in the car and all this. And oh, I'm losing my train of thought. What was it? Oh
When he gets
no.
lucid.
Oh yeah. So when he finally comes, that's all I was gonna say is that's why he won't come in from the car. And when we finally do see him come in from the car, his grandma's in there alone, and he just speaks to her as plain as day.
Right.
And I can't remember. I'm trying to think of exactly what he said.
He's like, I'm cold and I'm thirsty. He's like, could you make me a cup of tea? And like he
Yeah, I
just
don't want to
grabs
get
a
sick.
blanket and puts it over his shoulders and like walks, and she's just kind of like, what? What just happened?
But yeah, so if you mean the end of this movie,
Yeah.
I don't know that I think it's ambiguous really. I think that the only option for to me is that demon has fully possessed the autistic son to the point
Yeah.
that he ate his grandmother. He's like
And
hawking up her hair and necklace and everything.
I guess that's not the part I'm talking about. I guess I'm talking more about the demon being born and walking out and becoming part of the world. Like what happens in the world in that situation, not necessarily what happens to the
Yeah,
kid and the family.
I guess that probably is left open to interpretation, but it's not like ambiguous in the sense that like did everything work out all right?
No, it didn't. It did
It did
not.
not. It's bad news from here on. But yeah, I guess it's kind of like and fill in the blank with however you want to, it. And that was the end.
Yeah.
uh, and Lucifer reigned. I guess I'm not sure, but like I was a little bit confused that the ending, and I'm not. This is not a complaint at all, but I was a little bit confused that the ending wasn't newborn demon
Yeah,
walking away with the kids and they just cut to black,
I thought
because
that's
any
where it would
further
have
than that
ended.
it's like, well, there's no hope for anything, and then you find out the I mean it's maybe it was just to drive home the fact that like not only is the kid still possessed but he ate his grandmother.
Well, and I
And
think
you got to see the father come to terms with his own mother being eaten by his own kid and all this.
right, and I do think the movie probably could have ended when the demon was born and walked out into the sunlight and stuff. But I think they kind of show that the not show, but they're talking about like the lady who is the cleaner who's kind of retired or whatever
Hmm.
says that like she was this church leader and the first rotten showed up in her church and puked like threw up his family members that he'd eaten the night before, and I feel like they just kind of wanted to put that toward in the movie as well as
Well, and
showing
I
like the
also
kid.
think it was good to end with our main cast again and
Yeah,
show, like, really drive home the bleakness of this and the
right.
because this thing is just this movie's like ferocious. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's like it's got a it's mean.
yeah. But
It's mean.
it was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, I think I've gushed as much as I can. Is there anything else we wanted to touch on that we didn't?
No, I think in the spoiler, I think I've said anything spoilery that I wanted to say. We covered it all that I
Yeah,
can think
Azrael
of.
reigns
Yeah,
from here on. It's Azrael's world now. We're all just living in it.
right.
Uh, yeah, we already rated it. What are you gonna do? We go watch this movie. If you're here and you haven't watched this movie, you're messed up.
Yeah.
You're real messed up. Get help. All right, yeah. We'll see you guys later. Stick
See ya.
around for the next one. Thanks for watching as always. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.